Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving into something really current, pretty compelling, actually. Alligator Alcatraz.
Ah.
Quite a name, isn't it? But it's real. It's a new state-established immigration detention facility way out in the Everglades in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And the big news, just today, July 25th, 2025, is that deportation flights have officially kicked off from there.
That's right.
We heard Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announce that hundreds of detainees have already been processed out, some relocated within the U.S., others sent back to their home countries.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, I think, is the sheer scale and, well, the unique setup of this whole thing. The official line, from the governor's office is that Alligator Alcatraz is there to speed things up, increase the frequency, increase the number of deportations.
Right.
And crucially, it even has its own runway, built specifically, it seems, for those deportation flights.
It's all runway.
Okay. Yeah. So our mission for this deep dive, then, is to really get a handle on the facts behind Alligator Alcatraz. We want to understand, its purpose, who's involved, because you've got state and federal players here, right?
Absolutely. State construction, federal cooperation.
Yeah.
It's complex.
And what does it all mean? For immigration enforcement in Florida, obviously, but maybe even wider than that.
Exactly. And that raises a really important question, I think. What are the implications when you see a major new development like this? We'll also be looking at how these federal and state efforts are kind of weaving together on the ground. And what are people actually experiencing there? What are the reports telling us? We need the full picture.
Okay, let's start maybe with the why. Why build something like Alligator Alcatraz now? What was the thinking behind it? And how does it fit into Florida's bigger picture on immigration? Well, the stated goal, pretty clearly, is about capacity and speed. The governor wants to significantly ramp up the state's ability to process and deport people. It's being presented as like a central hub for a much more expedited deportation process.
Expedited, okay.
Before this, detainees might be held in various local jails, maybe transferred out of state. Could be slow, fragmented. This new place, it centralizes everything, streamlines the whole operation.
Yeah.
And that runway we mentioned, that really signals the intent, doesn't it? Direct deportation flights.
Yeah.
No need for commercial airports, no long bus journeys. Just straight out.
Wow, yeah, that definitely sounds like a potential logistical game changer for carrying out deportations. Yeah. And you mentioned the state and federal link. We keep hearing about these 287G agreements. Yeah. Can you break those down for us? How do they fit into what's happening at Alligator Alcatraz?
Sure. Yeah, the 287G agreements, they're really central to this. Basically, it's a federal program that lets the federal government deputize state and local police officers to act essentially as immigration agents.
So local cops doing federal immigration work.
Exactly. They get specific training and credentials, and then they can identify people, process them, detain them if they suspect they're undocumented. It's a big expansion of their usual powers. Mm-hmm. And in Florida, we've seen a massive increase in this. Larry Keefe, he's the head of Florida's Board of Immigration Enforcement. He laid out the numbers. You had 1,800 Florida troopers already doing arrests under this, and then just recently they've added another, 1,200 sheriff's deputies and 650 state agents, all newly credentialed for 287G.
It's a huge number. Thousands of state and local officers now empowered for federal immigration enforcement. How does that change things on the ground, having so many local personnel involved? Mm-hmm. What's the benefit from the state's point of view?
Well, it massively expands the reach of enforcement, doesn't it? You're not just relying on, say, ICE agents anymore. Now, potentially any traffic stop, any interaction with state or local law enforcement could lead to immigration processing if the officer is 287G credentialed and finds grounds. So the state can leverage its entire law enforcement network. It dramatically increases the potential volume of arrests. From their perspective, it's about efficiency, it's about reach, taking what they see as necessary action and feeding directly into places like Alligator Alcatraz. The idea is a faster pipeline. Arrest, processing, deportation, all streamlined.
Okay, that paints a very clear picture of the strategy.
Yeah.
But whenever you have an operation this big, rapidly set up, questions about conditions inevitably come up, especially in a detention setting. What are we hearing from the ground? What's it reportedly like for the people being held there?
Yeah, and that's where things get a bit contradictory based on the sources we have. On one side, you have officials like Kevin Guthrie. He's the director of Florida's Division of Emergency Management. He's been out there defending the conditions, saying the tent facility meets all the required standards.
Okay.
But then CBS News Miami, they've spoken to detainees or relayed claims from them, and it's a very, very different story. They're reporting claims of, well, really poor, unsanitary conditions, things like food with maggots,
Oh, wow.
not enough showers, lack of regular access, and critically, detainees claiming they have no access to lawyers.
No lawyers.
So
That's a major concern.
it is. So it's a stark contrast, official assurances versus these really troubling reports from detainees. It definitely highlights ongoing questions about oversight in these kinds of facilities.
Absolutely. Those are serious allegations.
Yeah.
And thinking about Florida, you can't ignore the environment. Hurricane season is a reality there.
hmm
What have officials said about being prepared if a major storm hits the Everglades? What happens to a facility like this filled with people?
Yeah, that's obviously a critical question. Officials have said they have contingency plans. They acknowledge the risk. Nowhere in Florida is completely safe from hurricanes. Governor DeSantis himself commented on it, saying basically they know how to handle storms, but they do have procedures in place for the facility.
Procedures like evacuation
Right.
or
They haven't detailed the specifics publicly, as far as I've seen, but presumably, yes, protocols for either evacuating detainees or somehow securing the facility, depending on the storm's severity.
Okay, so plans exist, but the details aren't entirely clear. All right, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, it's pretty clear. Alligator Alcatraz is a major development.
Mm.
It's this blend of state-built infrastructure being used in close cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. And we have confirmation, right? ICE officials, Garrett Ripa, a top ICE guy in Florida, confirmed flights did start today. 2 or 3 already gone by the time the reports came out.
Yeah, exactly. And looking at the bigger picture, the scale here is just,
Right.
well, it's something else. Remember Kevin Guthrie, the emergency management director? He stated the current capacity is 2,000 detainees,
2,000,
and they're already planning to double that, expand it to hold 4,000 people.
4,000.
Combine that rapid scaling with that huge number of newly deputized state and local officers we talked about, the 1,800 troopers, the 1,200 deputies, the 650 state agents. What you're seeing is a really significant state-driven bolstering of federal immigration enforcement power on the ground. It's quite a shift.
It really is. And as we just covered, set against that backdrop are these conflicting reports about conditions. Officials saying things are fine, but CBS News Miami relaying detainee claims of, maggot-infested food, lack of showers, no lawyers. So putting it all together, what does this all mean for you, listening to this, trying to stay informed about these kinds of critical, fast-moving developments?
Well, I think this really pushes us to consider the wider impact when a state takes such proactive steps to essentially amplify federal immigration enforcement. These kinds of rapid, large-scale operations, they could set precedents, couldn't they, for how immigration policy gets carried out elsewhere. It affects the individuals directly involved, obviously, but it also feeds into the whole national conversation we're having about enforcement tactics, about detention standards, about human rights within the immigration system itself. It's a big ripple effect.
Yeah, definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
Governor DeSantis said, talking about hurricane plans, this ain't our first rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the scale of this deportation operation,
Mm-hmm.
the speed, the expansion of state powers, it really does make you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of future rodeos might be coming down the line in immigration policy and enforcement? Something to keep watching for sure.